Word. All right. Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of the Power of Your Mind podcast. You're listening to episode number 114. I'm Victoria Gallagher, Law of Attraction hypnotist and #1 best-selling author of Practical Law of Attraction, Align Yourself with the Manifesting Conditions and Successfully Attract Your Desires. I'm also the founder of HipTalk.com and HypnoCloud apps, which gives you access to over 500 hypnosis recordings right in the palm of your hand. So be sure to download that app from all the app stores. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Kimberly Spencer. Kimberly Spencer is an award-winning high-performance coach and trainer, Amazon best-selling co-author, international motivational speaker, and the founder of crownyourself.com, helping high achievers build their empire and sparkle with holistic fulfillment in their bodies, businesses, and relationships. From her entrepreneurial beginnings at age 5, selling bags of glitter water to her neighbors, to becoming an award-winning screenwriter, certified Pilates instructor, Miss Congeniality, and 6-time WEGO Health Activist Award nominee, Kimberly is proof that it's better to make your own mold than to conform to someone else's. She's also the former executive of a national e-commerce startup and was the owner of the private Pilates studio, Fitness with Kim, in Los Angeles, California. Her journey into the world of mompreneurship with her husband was featured in the 2017 Netflix docuseries. How do you pronounce that? Docuseries. Docuseries. There we go. Docuseries. Being Dad. Her work has been featured on the CW, ESPN, Chicken Soup for the Soul, and NPR, and in Thrive Global, Girls Live, CNBC, and Forbes. Her premier solo book, Mindful Meals: How to Dethrone Food Fears and Rein in a Body, The Rules, debuts in summer 2020. So that debuts summer 2020.
It's coming out this year.
Wow,
I am so excited.
Awesome.
This has been my elephant baby of a book, so it is.
Wow, that is so awesome. I know all about it. I mean, writing is a commitment.
It's a commitment for sure. Yeah.
I've actually been putting together how to write a best-selling book for a conference, a hypnosis conference, so other hypnotists can learn how to become best-selling authors. And so I'm kind of having to retrace the steps and talk about all of the things that actually go into this. And you do have to actually sit down and write and take time to write.
Yeah, that's the whole part. A book doesn't write itself. It's so annoying. It doesn't just go from your mind into like the ether, into the 3D, unfortunately.
Right. And there's things you can do to make your life a little easier, more organized, and get your juices flowing in your head, get the creative flow going. But, you do have to take time, set aside an hour a day, 2 hours a day, 4 hours a day to actually write.
Mm-hmm. So get that ish done.
Congratulations. And you can be found on crownyourself.com, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Crownyourself.com. That's my business, baby.
Woo! So, today you're going to be sharing with us some of your insights on Money Bulimia Recovery, how to heal your relationship with your body and your bank account. That's the second, actually, was it bulimia? I think it was like financial bulimia, or somebody called something, they coined that term with bulimia, and I can't remember what it was, but anyway.
Bank account bulimia, but it wasn't. I mean, the thing is it's what I found is the correlation, because I was bulimic back from the age of like 12 to 22. And wow. I spent 10 years dealing with that. And once I'd recovered, I recovered with no psychological or medical or intervention. What really helped me transform and recover was being of service. Mm-hmm. So I found Pilates early on when I was 19 years old, and I was looking to support myself back then in my career in entertainment. And I found Pilates, and I'd never really fit in at the gym. I didn't know what I was doing. I found tried running. I couldn't run a mile to save my life, but I found Pilates, and it was the first time that I was like, holy moly, this is like, I feel so good in my body. And within 3 months, I was like, I have to teach this. Within 6 months, I was certified. And then within another 3 months, I was teaching full time at a studio. And what was great about that was the perspective shifts that it allowed me to have. Because a lot of times, 80 to 90% of people don't move out of the financial demographic of their parents. Mm-hmm. And why is that? Because you're surrounded by the same community. You're surrounded by the same people. So I went into a space where I was teaching in a more affluent community in Los Angeles. And I am one of the more affluent suburbs. And I was surrounded by people 10 hours a day, different perspectives. I was getting 10 different perspectives intimately, while touching their body to like pinpoint triggers and like tell them to squeeze here and engage here and pointing at them. And as we would go and as we would have our sessions, we would have these discussions. And I realized, oh my God, I'm not the only person. Like for one, I'm not alone. And for two, I am like, I'm not the only person that struggles with this. Okay, cool. And I just showed up very authentically, very vulnerably. And clients actually came to me because I was open with the fact that I'd never liked exercise. Clients came to me because I said I struggled with 10 years of eating and funky eating and dieting and bulimia. And I was very open and transparent with all of it. And oh, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, I was just acknowledging you. I mean, I think that number one, it's amazing when you find out what you're passionate about and you just everything just falls into place and you just go for it. And it was amazing that you did that. But, also it's you can relate and people can relate to you. And when people can relate to you, it just really gives them permission to also, when you're authentic, it gives them the permission to be authentic with themselves. And I really think that in that space, that's where people can heal.
Yeah, because so much shame is around our bodies, especially more so as women. Men also have it too, though. And so much shame can be around our bank accounts as well. And what I didn't realize, because back then I knew nothing of the subconscious mind back then. Back then I was just I knew the body. Mm-hmm. And I'd started to pique my interest, this whole mindset thing, because I saw the difference. I said it didn't matter whether somebody was technically obese or technically thin or technically ate healthy or they really did not, or they exercised once a week or they exercised 5 times a day. What mattered was how they thought about their body. And I was like, there's a correlation. There's a correlation to thinking. And that's what actually enhanced my healing, because I just allowed myself to be the guinea pig of my experiences and learn and just check myself and question my thinking about my body and allow myself to assess, okay, well, if I'm seeing that it's thinking, then maybe if I just change my thinking. And there's a process to any sort of transformation, and it's allowing for that healing process, because you're going to go through 2 stages and kind of cyclically of conscious incompetence, where you make your mistakes where you realize your mistakes after you make them, and then conscious competence, where you catch yourself before making the mistake, before succumbing to that old trigger. And I started to do that dance for 3 years. I was in that space of conscious incompetence and conscious competence, and I would allow myself the grace and forgiveness and permission to, okay, I did that. Okay, I threw up again. Okay, why? what was the trigger? What was it? How I was feeling? Was it my cycle? Was it this? And I started to ask myself better questions. And I didn't know back then what the power of our questions do for our subconscious mind. And what that did was it enhanced my healing so much that by the time I was signed up for the Miss California pageant, I was strutting across that stage like I owned it. And honestly, I was in a bathing suit. It was the first time I felt so proud of myself. I felt so confident, and I loved how I looked, because I worked my ass off, frankly, to be toned, but not in a punishing way, in a way that was really kind, in a way that through Pilates, and then I eventually got into running. And now I've run 5 marathons from the person who couldn't run a mile to save her life. To be able to have that ability, I felt so free and liberated that it didn't matter if somebody else crowned me, Miss California. I crowned myself. And that's basically where the name of my business came from, because I know the power that when you take that ownership of your results, it changes the game. And the same is true for your bank account, because I didn't realize that sometimes when you flip that iceberg over and you let a lot of that stuff melt of the subconscious beliefs and all that stuff, that sometimes if you don't hit those beliefs of being enough, of being worthy, or of deserving, it can jump forms. So what happened for me was it jumped forms into my relationships, and I started choosing really poor choices in partners for a short period. And then it jumped forms into my e-commerce business, where I was in my e-commerce business, and we were it was a startup. There was struggle and hustle and challenge. And then 3 weeks after I was, 3 weeks before I got married to my forever husband, I signed the buyout agreement for my e-commerce business. And the problem was that the buyout was great, but I was still stuck in debt. And then I was stuck in doubt. And so after I was bought out of that e-commerce business, it was the first time in my life that I had ever had crushing doubt, because I took that failure as an identity failure. And I went through a year and a half of blame and shame and complaining and being in such a victim mindset. And it wasn't until I found out that I was pregnant back in 2016 that I was like, oh, this person ain't going to be the mother of my son. I don't like this person, whatever this is. And I was terrified, because it was $40,000 in credit card, or $35,000 in credit card debt. And I was like, I don't know what to do, but I do believe that the universe gives you clues. And I had started on the search weeks before I found out I was pregnant, and I was looking into hypnosis and NLP and timeline therapy. And I was looking into all these other tools, and I'd found this program. And I was talking to the saleswoman, who was also one of the coaches. And we just had such a fabulous conversation. And I remember it because it was on election day, 2016. And then I got off the phone, and I was like, I don't know, as she said, the investment's $5,000. I was like, girl, I got $35,000 of credit card debt. Where that $5,000 is going to come from, I don't know. But I was like, okay, cool. Let me think on it. Let me ask my husband. And I asked my husband, and he was like, if you feel it's right, he's like, I'll support you in anything you do. And I was like, I don't know. And then I found out I was pregnant, and she was the second person I told. I called her up. I said, what you got? I'm there. I will be there. And so I signed up. 2 weeks later, I was driving to Vegas, and I was getting certified in NLP, timeline therapy, and hypnosis. Ooh. And I had a massive, and while pregnant, and I just said, this is it. And within a few months, I got my first $2,000 client, and then I got my first $5,000 client, and then I got my first $10,000 client. And my business has grown from there. And it's been such a beautiful growth process, because I had new tools to discover the similarities and to have that understanding of the subconscious. And it took about a year or so for me to see, oh my gosh, the same parallels that I had with my body, I had with my business and with my bank account. and those same parallels of those beliefs of not being enough, but also the same habits. So the habits of consuming and not really having it nourish.
Mm-hmm.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
That is an amazing story so far. I'm really, really enjoying this. We definitely have a lot of parallels here.
Yeah.
You know, later on, you know, like when we do our thing, it'll be fun to share that with you. But so that is, I mean, it's so true that these beliefs, these limiting beliefs, they're very tricky, because if you think that you're just going to like power yourself or will yourself to go on that diet or quit smoking or you know, stop dating the wrong kind of people, you know, those things are going to show up in some other way. You can't just, they're like whack-a-moles.
Yeah. So they just keep coming up.
They just
Dang
keep
it.
coming up. And so what, like, how did you discover, you know, success through your subconscious mind? How did that happen?
A lot of it really came from going back to trusting my gut
Mm-hmm.
and building that trust back. Because I had to realize that the times that I didn't listen to that gut inclination were actually the times that I did go down a path that taught me some really valuable lessons. But I had the inclination to not go down that path early on, and the lessons could have been learned in a different way, maybe a little easier. And so I had to recognize that it was never my intuition that was off. It was my logic brain. Mm-hmm. Like, because that, as smart people, we can logic ourselves out of a box. Like, should we like to? Like, oh, this seems like it seems crazy. And one of the great things is that through working with all of my amazing clients, one of the statements that I've heard so often that has made them successful is, this seems crazy, but let's go ahead and try. Like, where it's like their gut saying, this seems crazy, I don't know what this is going to do, but let's go ahead. Like, and it's a full bungee jump of faith. Like, it is bungee jumping and trusting that cord that's got your back, well, technically if you're bungee jumping, it's got your ankles, but that it's going to snap you up and that you're going to soar. And having bungee jumped, it feels exactly like that. Like plummeting toward the ground, watching, you know, potential death, and then being snapped up. And suddenly when that bungee hits, you fly and you're like, oh my, this is better than anything I've ever imagined. And it's that experience that led me to being here in the Gold Coast and being able to live like our best life during a pandemic and travel the world while staying quarantined at the same time.
Right. Like, you know, I think that is so attractive to the universe when you listen to your intuition. And even though it doesn't make sense and you're just stepping into, you're taking that risk, but it's like you're saying yes. And so I think when you say yes to your subconscious, superconscious universe, you know, there's an intelligence in there that it's like you almost get like an immediate reward, an immediate acknowledgement, and immediate like, yes, we're gonna step in and we're gonna help things to unfold the way that they're meant to unfold.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful when you say that yes, and then the reward comes. The reward comes quickly, like a lot faster than if you're like hustling and pushing and like trying to force something to happen. And it does come from listening to those gut instincts and those intuition and those intuitive hits that just say like, go there, do this. Like when I get that intuitive hit to go to this coffee shop, I was like, okay, cool. I'll go to this coffee shop and like work. And I met an amazing friend from being able to be there. Or I've met clients. And like, that's why one of my beliefs is like, I get clients from anywhere. When coaches are like, how do you get your clients? I'm like, I get clients from anywhere, because it's about the energy that you're bringing to the situation. And when you're bringing that openness of like, okay, God, universe, source, who do I need to meet today? Who do I need to meet? Who do I need to help serve? Who do I need to lead on? Like, who do I need to guide? Who needs to guide me? Like, how can I help? How can I be of service? Like that attitude, like that was what led me to teaching Pilates in the first place. And the biggest mistake that I've ever made in growing my business, Crown Yourself, was actually making it about the money.
Mm-hmm.
Like
yep.
when I started growing Crown Yourself, I then started like really studying manifestation and money manifestation. And specifically, I'm like, oh, if the mind is this powerful, like, yeah, I'm going to dive into money manifestation. And I was in the space and I was like, whoa, I hit my first $10,000 month. And then I hit like less than 1,000. And I was like, what happened? Like, what happened? First of all, it was the belief of deserving. It tracked back to that belief. And it also was the focus was on money. The focus was not on really being of service and serving through your purpose. And like, that was the biggest shift for me because I had like a good 3 months of like a dry spell where I was like, whoa, this is interesting. And I know that from my history with bulimia, the number in your bank account is just like the number on a scale. It's the effect. It's not the cause. Mm-hmm. So when I would look at that number, I'd be like, I'd look at it and I'd be like, okay, so that's the effect of certain actions or beliefs or habits. So like, what did I do that got me that first $10,000 a month? And then how do I need to pivot? How do I need to shift? What was I believing? What was I trusting? And I saw that the difference was when I had that first $10,000 a month, I had so much certainty. I just trusted. And it didn't come in the month that I thought it was, which was going to be like the month prior. Like I'd been writing all my intentions and being really diligent and doing my 5x55s and all that stuff and doing all the doings. And it didn't come. And I was like, okay, I still believe it's coming. I still know it's coming. I still know it's happening. The next month it happened. I was like, it happened. And then I made it about the money. And then I was like, okay, I got a new lesson. As one of my mentors says, new levels, new devils. so there was certain
That's
things.
So true. That's such, I really want to emphasize that point to people, because that's the thing is it's, number one, this is kind of like a two-pronged sentence. Number one, it is perfectly fine to make as much money as possible. All right. Yeah. Everybody deserves to have the abundance, to have all the things. But when you make it about money, you're ultimately chasing it away. Mm-hmm. You have to make it, like you say, you have to make it, I believe, you got to make it about the service, because mm-hmm. you're paid and you're, it's the law of reciprocity. When you give, you receive. Mm-hmm. And you receive in abundance. And so I 100%, I 100% agree with you about that, that it's the, that money in your bank account is the effect, not the cause.
It is the effect. And it's also like what I see with coaching a lot of business owners is they look at that number and they make it mean something about their identity. Mm-hmm. And the same is true with a lot of people who are struggling with eating disorders. They look at that number on the scale and they make it about their identity. Oh, this means that I am fat. Oh, this means if I and maybe it's like 5 pounds over like what you are or whatever. But like, it's like, oh, this means this, that, and that. And I'm like, no, that's the effect of what the habits, the beliefs, the thoughts, the feelings that you've put into it. And the same is true for when you're like, I love what you said about it. You can't make it about the money. It's like you may want to get the goal, like whether a weight goal or a financial goal, and then you got to surrender it. You got to let it go, because the goal actually comes faster and easier when you're tuning into your body, when you're tuning into really loving yourself. And it sounds cliche, but it's true. There's a reason why cliches are cliches. And it's tuning into really loving yourself and loving the service that you're putting out into the world. And so like your body is a tool, just like money is a tool, but your body is the vessel. And that tool, it allows, you are the vessel that allows it to come in. The same as with like food and money are so parallel and so similar, because both food and money are natural resources. They are mm-hmm. completely natural resources. And yeah, is some food more nutritious than others? Sure. But when you're attaching things like morality, like, oh, this is a bad food, especially like when you're on a diet, like this is a bad food, like I shouldn't eat this. Then suddenly what happens in your mind is like, suddenly you're labeling this thing as bad. Well, what happens when you eat it? What happens when you consume it? Suddenly, what does that mean? If you are what you eat, does that mean that you're bad? Not necessarily. Food has no morality, but neither does money. And so some people, when you have money mentalities or money beliefs, like money is bad or rich people or whatever, and you have those sort of beliefs, well, when you receive money, then you're going to do you're going to get it out of you as fast as you can, which is kind of bulimia. It's basically bulimia. And it's financial bulimia. And I was working with a client of mine, and he was struggling. He's like, I don't like money. I was like,
I don't like money.
I was like, dude, I love money. Like, money and I are having a love affair, and it is passionate and glorious and lovely and sexy. And just like I have a passionate love affair with my body, because I'm like, that's what got me back into the space of healing. And I said, how can you heal that relationship with money? Mm-hmm. And when he started healing and looking at the beliefs of like, oh, I don't like money, I said, well, why? And it was like, oh, rich people and this and this and that. I said, well, show me some examples of the counter, like rich people who are doing really amazing work in this world, like Tony Robbins or Peter Diamandis, or like people who are really, really, who have hearts of service and love. And he started looking at these people, was like, oh my gosh, they have so much power. I said, that is why you need to be rich. That is what, like, this world literally needs you to be rich. It is irresponsible for you to not be rich, because if you are not wealthy, then like your impact only goes so far, but you have such a good heart and so much service, like, to give to people, and so much that you want to pour into people, that this world actually needs you to be wealthy so that you can bless other people and ripple that out beyond your family. And he started taking massive money action. He started having conversations with his wife about money. He started savings. He started a savings account, because that was the thing with money bulimia, is a lot of times when you're bulimic, what is bulimia? You bring it in and then you vomit it up. So a lot of times the bank account and that number on a scale is low because you're not having it. There's a different energy to money in receiving it, just like there's a different energy to food in receiving it. And there's a different energy to having it, to really like have it and let it nourish you, let it nourish your body, let it nourish your community, let it nourish and be that tool so that it ripples forth. That is the power that you generate into money and food. That's the correlation that I've seen, is that having comes from a place of deserving. Yeah. And really holding on and shifting our beliefs around what we deserve. And
it's so true. And actually, just to speak to your point about the world needs you to be wealthy.
Yeah.
Going one step further, I had a guest a few weeks back that said, and it was kind of a shocking statement, but it really makes sense. He said that, if you don't want to have a lot of money, it's actually selfish. It's actually selfish, because think about all the people that you could serve with that money. If you don't want a lot of money, it means you're only concerned about yourself. Mm-hmm. If you really think about it. Mm-hmm. And it really made a lot of sense. So I'm totally in alignment with that thought process. And something else kind of occurred to me when he said that. I wonder if you've ever put any thought into, so you speak in terms of financial bulimia. Have you ever put any thought into like what it might mean to be financially anorexic? I thought, like if somebody is like very miserly or hoarding money, or they, I don't know.
That's more like financially obese, actually.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, that's actually like more like financially obese, because if you're hoarding money, like, yes, think of it like, just like if you're hoarding food, you're storing it, but it's not going anywhere because you're not moving your body. You're not using it to fuel you to do your purpose work.
Yeah.
So when you're
maybe financial anorexia is you're trying to make as little money as possible, taking as little as you possibly
taking as little, and there are so many people who do that because they're like, the perception is like about it being bad or wrong or like anything but being like lean. And I mean, I've seen a lot of people, especially in the nonprofit space, with that like financial leanness. And I'm like, you need money to like expand the impact. And as my mentor, Brenda Burchard, says, you need money to sustain the mission. Like that's a requirement. So how can we use it? How can we heal this relationship so that we can be financially healthy, not from like the what's in your bank account, but from the energy that we have around it? Because it all comes back to those beliefs.
So
and like
how do you heal that relationship?
It's like any relationship where there's broken trust. Like it takes time. It takes having conversations regularly, daily, of trust and looking at, okay, it takes building back that trust with money, with food. Like I would have before, like when I was bulimic, I would have moments where I would sit there and have to relearn how to trust myself to know that I was full. Like I would have to sit there also and relearn how to trust myself to be able to eat a pizza and not eat the whole thing, but to be able to eat until I was satisfied, till I had been fueled properly, and then be able to move forward. So it was a building back of trust of like, okay, I'm going to eat this cake. I appreciate you for the sweetness that you're going to bring to my life for this moment. I'm going to pour in some gratitude. I'm going to build in this trust, and I am going to trust that this cake will not show up 5 pounds late tomorrow on the scale. Like I'm going to just trust that this is going to be a mutual like relationship of just having this moment of indulgence, of love, of experience. And I'm going to eat this and I'm going to enjoy it. And then I'm going to also listen to how my body responds to it. And so that's actually how I gave up gluten when I was 21, because I would eat it and I would listen, and I was starting to build that trust back with my body. And my body said, this gives you brain fog. This gives you, this makes you a little manic. Like this doesn't really do anything that's serving you. So maybe stay away from this. And eventually I like weaned it out of my diet. And by diet, I mean diet as in lifestyle. I don't mean diet as in like a restrictive diet or anything.
Right.
But that's the same as with money. It's like really being able to sit with money in your bank account, like being able to sit and be like, oh, I have money in there. Like, because I used to be financially bulimic as well. Like when I would receive money for the first like year of my business, it would immediately go out to bills. It would immediately go like, so there was this constant energy of flow, but so I was able to receive, but I was also getting burnt out, because that's what happens is when you're bulimic, it depletes your energy because you're not letting it sit in the having energy, and the energy of being able to have it and hold it and let it nourish you, and then let it grow in a healthy way, like a muscle. Like we want to build muscle, not fat. So I think that's kind of like the financial obesity thing is like having that obese bank account. It's like it's fat, but it's not really fueling any service to anyone else. And I do believe that money and life, it comes in to support life. And so when you generate it out to support life as well, like anytime I spend money, I bless it. Like I write thank you on all of my receipts whenever I'm like at a restaurant, or when that was available. It's available in Australia. You can go out to eat in Australia. It's okay here as long as you're not in Victoria. It was just a way to be able to have that healing where it's an energy and an attitude of like really building back any trust like you do in a relationship. So if you think about, if you were in an abusive relationship, which I was with my body, but if you were, and I was also in with people, with other men, that when you are in that abusive relationship, there is a break in the fabric of that trust. And now, if it's a person, they can leave. But unfortunately, you cannot divorce yourself from your body, and you cannot divorce yourself from money. Like, I mean, yeah, I guess you can, but you can go live up in a mountain somewhere. But like, you're gonna, like, divorcing yourself from your body is death. It's literal death. And so how do you build that trust back? It's like, it's having those conversations. It's having those moments of intention of saying, look, I'm being really intentional right now and trusting that as I spend this money, that it's going to come back tenfold. And I'm being really intentional now that when I invest in this program or invest in this product or invest in this coach or invest in this thing, or even invest in like this, you know, fancy sparkling water or a nice meal or something that makes you feel good, and that investment is going to come back. Because that's what an investment is. And I started looking at food as an investment, just like I started looking at money as an investment, where food that costs me is food that's like really high in sugar or it's gluten. Like, that costs me energy. And if money is a form of energy, then I would look at what are the things that are costing me. Well, when I would spend from a place, when I first started my business and was making absolutely no money in it, I was spending money still, my money from my buyout, on things that I thought I needed to be perceived as the fancy business owner. And it cost me because I was spending from a place of doubt. I wasn't believing in myself. I didn't have a sales process. All I had was like some really nice photo shoots and an expensive website. And so
it's so easy to, you know, to just spin your wheels and spend your time and money on all these things that are all about the ego and about the appearance and about the way I'm going to look. But really, you know, none of that stuff is actually going to help. I mean, you know, it helps to a small degree. It helps
a little, but yeah.
But, you know, it's not the real, like, you know, it's not the real work that you need to do to grow your business. And so, yeah, it's really interesting that you say that, you know, that it's kind of like the looking good stuff.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, I say that the growing a business is kind of like the one thing that you need is like cash. And it's kind of like, you don't try to grow a baby by thinking about it, by journaling about it. Like, there is one process that you do to make a baby. Like, there is one process and one thing. And the same is true in your business. There is one thing that you do to grow a business, and that is having a sales process in place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So speaking of a process, so you talk about having a unique subconscious success strategy. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So this light is just, I have a light that's coming in my window.
I see it. It's beautiful.
There we go. It's beautiful until it's blinding.
Yeah. I hear you.
So the unique subconscious success strategy, I found this with clients from all areas of their success, because in some area of your life, you have success. And success is success is success is success. But the problem is, especially with high achievers, and I work with a lot of them, with high achievers, when you are not in your way, in the ego's way of saying that you are successful, then it will not recognize any other form of success that you may be successful in. And it will not see how you can apply that same success strategy to your bank account or to your business. And so what I've done with clients is I dig in as to like, where in their life have they felt really confident, really like they were in the dance of just being able to be in the flow of it, where they felt just like they had it, like that. This is an area where they've got this down. And I've had that where it's sometimes it's as that who they are as a parent or as a mother or as a dad. Sometimes it's where they, you know, their body. Like, that was one of the things that I discovered is when I saw the parallels of how I healed my body, that's been how I've been able to heal my bank account and my business. So I was like, oh, dang. Okay. So the beliefs, the habits, the thinking patterns, everything that goes into it. I've also had it from like people who think that they're very good in bed. And like, we've dove in to their subconscious strategy of like, well, what makes you really good in bed? And not in like, a lascivious way or anything like that, but like to really dive in, like what are you thinking? What are you feeling? Like, how are you responding? How are you allowing for that dance of that exchange of energy that makes you feel like, and makes the other person feel really supported and loved and cared for, and you're in that space. And it's been so fun to find where people find their success from, because when you can apply that success strategy to every other area of your life, that is your unique way that you are successful. So, and it also comes down to defining what is success for you, because success for you may be having a wonderful career. It may not be owning your own business. Success for you may just be, you know, being a rockin' mom who gives back to her community and an amazing wife. That can be success for you. But it really comes down to defining what makes you successful, defining what success is for you, and then looking at where in your life is a place that makes you very successful, and looking at the habits, the beliefs, the thinking, the feelings that you have with it. I was working with one woman, and we found it in her relationship, in her marriage. And I said, well, was there ever a time when you didn't have, where your relationship was kind of off? And she said, yeah. And she had gone through a hard time with her husband. And it came back to that love and building that love in. And when and she's like, oh my God, if I just love on my clients more, like my business will soar. And she's doing great now. Like she's doing amazing. And it was just because she had the connection of like, she was in the business of like, here's all the things you need to do in business, but she was missing that one thing that makes her successful in her marriage, which was the absolute complete love and partnership and desire to support and serve and be mutually like cheerleaders for each other. And she was missing that in her business. And that was like the key thing. And then once she saw that, she connected that, and her social media posts changed. She got more engagement. She was getting more clients, like rocking it.
That absolutely sounds magical, because, you know, and I can relate to that a lot. And I know what you're doing. I understand it, you know, just because I do the similar work.
Yeah.
But it was really, really, it's really enlightening to hear you say that, because, you know, like I know I have my success strategy when it comes to like, and I've also run several marathons. So like when it comes to marathon training, I have a success strategy there that I tap into. When it comes to weight loss, you know, my own personal, you know, time, like, and there's times when like it's Victoria on, and there's times when it's Victoria off.
Yeah.
And I know what that, you know, and I know that like, okay, if I can just tap into that same success strategy for all these other areas of my life, absolutely, they would be working just as well. And so I love that you said that, because it's, you know, I think people need to hear that. And I think people need to work with somebody like you, who knows what the heck is going on inside the subconscious mind that makes you successful. And they know, you just help them tap into it.
Yeah, it's not me telling them what their success is. Yeah, that's the thing, is like, it's never me telling you what your success strategy is. It's saying, okay, let's like, you think you're successful here. Okay, why is that? What makes it, like, let's dive in and really get into every single one of the beliefs, the habits, the things that you do, because when you can get to that space, then you can see, oh my gosh, I'm in this regular daily conversation, or I'm constantly, like I message my husband every day, like that, like I talk to him. I really want to engage with him. I want to be fully present with him. Like that's part of the success strategy for some people. For others, it's different things, but it's learning like what are those little unique degrees, because it's not like a massive, it's not like going from A to Z. It's just like those, you still got to get all those letters in between. And once you get all those letters in between, then you hit mile 26 and you're like, oh, I finished. Like I finished my marathon. There we go.
Absolutely. Yes. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. I love hearing that. I love hearing about the work that you do.
Thank you.
Yeah. So why do you think it's important for leaders in this world to discover their success strategy? Why do you think leaders specifically need to learn about that?
Well, because if you know what makes you successful, then you'll know also where to delegate, and you'll know your genius zone. Because so often a lot of leaders, and especially for entrepreneurs who are growing a business, like you are moving into a leadership role. And then as you bring on team, you are leading. And it's knowing where to delegate and where to let go of certain things, because you'll have more insight into what your genius zone is. When you're like, oh, my success strategy is having deep, powerful communication, and having really good connection and one-on-one conversations. Like that's part of my genius zone, is just like connecting. Then great. I will have my team do all the other parts of things that may need to be done in my business, if they do actually need to be done. And then I can focus on the things that I know that using my success strategy make me successful. The same is true for when you hire a team, knowing and having an awareness of what their success strategy is, how they value themselves, how they love themselves, because don't want to hire a team that doesn't value themselves. Just don't do it. Just hire people who really value themselves. I learned that from my mentor, Tirsa Shirai, founder of Blink Bar. And
I've learned that recently myself.
Yeah. And when you can hire people that value themselves and who understand what makes them successful and who know what their genius zone is. One of my team members, Marie, her genius zone is spreadsheets. She is a freaking rock star with the spreadsheet. I love a good organized spreadsheet. My Virgo heart is very happy, but putting in all the details and everything like that is just mind numbing for me. But she loves that. That's her thing. That's her thing, that she loves that little detail work. And that's part of her success strategy that makes her really good as a mom. And so how do you apply these things that make you really good in other areas and apply them then to your business, or apply them then to the people that you're leading? And then if you can find your own, you also have the ability to find other people's and then influence from that space of their own success, of saying, hey, I remember how we had that discussion about your subconscious success strategy. Well, I see that you're falling down on this project here, and what's made you successful, are you really, I know that what's made you successful in your marriage is that you really have that deep communication. Are you communicating with the team, or getting the support that you need, or asking for as much help as you need in this situation? Because then that allows you to have that deep conversation and transform in that way and serve that team member according to their own unique success strategy.
That is beautiful. That's brilliant. It's brilliant. You just reminded me of a little exercise I did with myself the other day to help. This is just, I feel like it's just genius, and you just validated it. And it kind of went like this. I just kind of did a little walkthrough. It was like, how do I want to spend my day? Because I spend a lot of my time doing things and I have virtual assistants. I have people creating things for me and doing things for me all the time. But, I do tend to get caught up in the, making the thumbnail for my YouTube video or whatever, and it's like, okay, this is what I do. And then this is what everybody else does. And I've just been accumulating this list. And I talked about the YouTube thumbnail, the other day, it's like, I got caught up in that. I was like, okay, that's going on the list of what other people do, because that person can, they're not going to be all attached to it. And they can spend 5 minutes doing something that's for me, it's all, going to take me half an hour to get it just right. And all of that, but it's like, it is about also just figuring out what it is that you love and what it is that you're skilled at, and what how you ultimately, in the big picture, how do you see yourself? How do you want to spend your day? Would Tony Robbins be making a freaking thumbnail? Right?
Right?
No,
I think so.
No, if you wouldn't do it, I'm not doing it. So that's kind of, it's kind of interesting that you say that, because, now you hire the people that are the best at that. And that's how you build a team of people who are tapped into doing what they love. And if everybody is doing what they love, and I totally believe the world would be a better place if everybody was just doing exactly what they love and less of what they don't love.
Yes. And doing what they are supposed to be put on this planet for. And I can't say what that is, but and the thing is about the genius zone, like when you really know that zone of genius,
yep.
That genius zone, when you know what it is, it seems easy, it seems crazy, and it seems like this is too easy. One of my clients, he was struggling to build his business, and he first had his first $9,000 month, rocked it out of the park, then had a month where it was just like, he's like, I have closed no clients. Like, what's up? And I said, well, what were you doing back then? He said, well, I said, where did you find your past clients? And he said, well, I found one in a coffee shop, and I met one, from a webinar, and I met one in this. And I said, so you were having conversations. And I said, so what have you spent this past month doing? And he was like, well, I've been building marketing funnels. And I was like, oh, there you go. Have more conversations. Thank you very much.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, it's easy to like just get yourself wrapped up in these other things that everybody else tells you. It's like, oh, you need to do this, and that'll, that's what you're supposed to do. But you got to tap in. You got to do the things. I just believe, if you do what you're good at and what you love, all of the other things will kind of take care of themselves ultimately.
100%.
So I love your, I love your story. I love hearing about your success strategy. And also you are very generous to be offering our listeners here on Power of Your Mind podcast, a workbook and a training that's going to help them to heal their money beliefs. So can you tell just a little bit about that?
Yeah. This was originally a training that came out of my Revolutionary Empire Builders program that is really for business owners, entrepreneurs, and leaders who want to step up into that next level. But this training was so powerful and so good that I wanted to pull it out and just repurpose that and just like make it available for everyone. So it is the workbook. It is the exact work to discover your subconscious success strategy and how you can apply it to money. And it is a powerful training. My Empire Builders, they just loved it, and I am very excited to share it with you. So please download it in the link below, or the link wherever you put the links, Victoria, and enjoy it. Let me know. You can hit me up on social media at Kimberly.Spencer on Instagram, and let me know how you love the workbook and how it serves you.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So you guys can go ahead and download that in the show notes. That'll go in there. And is there anything else, any final tips that you'd like to leave our listeners with today, other than stopping by your website?
Stop by my website, groundyourself.com. If you love this interview, if you'd love to like dive in personally and have like an excavator to your subconscious success strategy, I would be more than honored to work with you and learn from you and support you and grow you and all the things. And other than that, like my really like last and final thing is just believe in yourself and listen to that gut. Trust it, because you're here on this planet for a reason, and you have a powerful purpose, and you are just getting started.
Woo! That is beautiful. That is a wonderful note to end the show on. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for sharing your insights and your wisdom and your story with us. It was a wonderful pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much, Victoria. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to returning the favor.
Me too.